Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to be discussing active shooters and what you should do as a private security officer. If you haven't already watched Mike's videos at Defcon Security, I highly recommend you do so. This is what I like about Mike at Defcon Security. He has his own YouTube channel, by the way. He tells it like it is, and he doesn't make anything up. He will straight up tell you that he's not an expert in firearms, tasers, whatever it is, whatever topic he has of the day, he's not afraid to say, hey, look, I'm not an expert at this, but in this circumstance, I would do this. And being a leader in private security, I like to watch videos like Mike's because it brings me back to the bottom where the most important people are. And these are the people that are making those important decisions on the line staff level. And I need to keep that perspective. So we talked about active shooters, and I'm a little bit surprised that he mentioned that if there's an active shooter situation, then he would consider just leaving. That it's not worth the money. He doesn't have the training. And at first I sat down on a chair and I was thinking, you know what, that's a form of cowardice. But then I also thought, you know what, he has a good point. Mike has an excellent point. If you don't have the training experience and you don't feel the money's worth it, I think that's a good reason not to engage with this person. As leaders in private security, if we expect our officers to go above and beyond and put their life at stake, we're asking a lot. So here's my philosophy on active shooters. If you are a private security officer and you know the dangers of the job, so the employer tells you that there could basically be an active shooter situation and you have to stand your ground and take care of that problem. If you are trained to take an active shooter out and you have the proper mindset, and what I mean by mindset is you know what type of agreement you are agreeing to when you take on the security post, I think you should stand your ground and address this active shooter. A lot of private security are not trained to address active shooter situations. I know that firsthand because I've taken the exposed firearm permit course, and the training is not adequate to address the active shooter situation. To address the active shooter situation, you have to learn how to shoot on the move. You have to learn how to shoot behind barricades and how to deal with multiple threats. And the state of California's course on exposed permit does not allow you to have that type of exposure. So most private security do not have the training. This is also what you got to consider. You might think mentally that you have the training, maybe you go to the range a lot, but unless you have somebody that's assessing your skills, you really don't have much to bring to the table. Unless you have maybe a firearms instructor or some critiquer that critiques your shooting skills and ability, all you have is somebody that goes to the gun range a lot. I've ran into a lot of those people in my private security career, law enforcement career. Now, if you are in management and you're wondering, hey, what kind of people do I need to address these active shooter situations? The best people to hire are those who have been in active shooter situations. Now, I'll be honest, I've never been in an active shooter situation. But I will tell you that I have never backed down from any type of threat to my life. I never backed down on any fight that I've been involved in. I go all the way. But I've never been in an active shooter situation. I never backed out. One time that I stopped and backed out was when I was chasing somebody, and I knew that there's going to be a friendly gunfire exchange at the end. So I made sure I got out of the way, and there's about 30 to 40 rounds in my direction. That's the only time that I actually stopped and I forecast this. I had a good idea that was going to happen. I mean, you're chasing somebody, and on the other end are friendly people that are opposite to you. You know, the guy's gunning in a car in that direction. You know, what do you think is going to happen? That's the only time that I stopped. Another thing that you have to consider is, do you have the tool to do your job? If you're an employer, are you giving your people the tools that are needed to do the job? Okay. Handgun will work for sure, but what if this person has body armor? What if you need to hit this person at 100 yards or more? What about 50 yards or more? Are your people trained to do this? Okay. Are your people trained to handle an active shooter that is maybe 1,050 feet away? Hey, remember the Route 99 massacre in Las Vegas a couple years ago? Some of you watching this might have attended that festival, so I do apologize if I brought any traumatic experiences up. But think about this: if you have a handgun and you're at the bottom of this festival, and the shooter is 1,050 feet away, what are your chances of hitting this person with the handgun? That's a tough shoot. Okay, you can shoot at this person blindly. Okay, remember, there's a significant drop of elevation, especially with a pistol. You might be aiming at this person, squeezing off around, and you want to hit the 32nd floor. There is a good chance that you might hit somebody on the 31st floor or the 30th floor, 29th floor, or maybe too high. With a pistol, you are not afforded that type of precision. You're in a pit. Okay, this person is elevated. With a rifle, okay, we have a lot of people on this channel that are shooting with the rifle at certain distances. That's great, but do you shoot at 1,050 feet? Okay, I typically will shoot an AR-15 scoped at about 100 yards. I usually don't go farther. If I go any farther, I might go to 120 or 130. But to train at 1,050 feet, which is about 366 yards, I typically don't train that far. Do you train that far? Do you have what it takes? Okay. My hand selective choice to hire the best person for these types of possible active shooter assignments are combat veterans. They've been there, they've done it. Okay, they've been combat tested. Some of them are snipers. They get discharged from the military, and that was their MOS. That's what they did. That's their career, sniper. And it's not just about putting a scope on a rifle and shooting a long distance. No. The trained sniper is trained to understand human behavior and forecast where this person is headed in seconds. Okay? This person has proven themselves in combat to discriminate amongst a lot of people in perhaps a village and discriminate their target. Okay? Out of all these people that are doing their normal routines, our combat veterans were able to distinguish what persons are most likely going to engage in violence. These are the people that I want. So this is my first tier of people that I want on my security team handling a possible active shooter situation. Number two, law enforcement. Most law enforcement have not been in active shooter situations, but most have been in traumatic experiences. Some have been involved in officer-involved shootings, but that's rare. Maybe about 0.5% or 1% have been involved, but they've been tested over time. Those are the ones I also want. Okay, a lot of private security out there, they've been in these gunfights, stressful situations, so you might find some also. Okay, it just that you get a little bit less exposure as private security depending on your post when you compare it to when you compare them to law enforcement and military. I know because I have experiences from both security and law enforcement. Now, as for the trained person, you can go through the active shooter courses. They'll teach you how to run under a course of fire that involves barricades, prone positions, elevated positions, just different shooting platforms and weapons as well. But see, this is the thing about training. Your mind thinks that it's been places when it hasn't. There's a serious disconnect between your brain and reality. So in your mind, you might think you're Superman, Superwoman, but when it comes down in real life, it's not uncommon to freeze. Okay, I've been in some situations where I think I'm going to react a certain way, and I react a different way because I've never been there yet. I'm going to repeat that again. It's so important. There's a serious disconnect between your brain and reality. Now, how do you connect that bridge between reality and your brain processing what could be real? Reality-based training. Stress inoculation training. I'm talking about force and force training. And if you do any simunition training, okay, simunition training will get that fear factor in, the stress factor, the factor that you're gonna, that stress that you're gonna maybe get shot with one of these simunition rounds. That helps. That helps store memory and history in your brain. So when it comes down to the real situation, you're more likely going to default to your training. And if it's force on force training, simulations training, you're gonna do great. Okay, you're gonna do a good job. Those of you that don't have access to simulation, paintball. Okay, paintball. Okay, it does not feel good getting hit with a paintball. Okay, and knowing that it stings, you're gonna round a corner a lot more cautiously. Your brain is going to remember these things. If you get shot even with a paintball, you're gonna learn your lessons. Bottom line is this: if you have the proper training, you have that experience. Proper training, I mean, you have active shooter training, proper experience, you have the mindset, and you signed up for something, or you agreed to something that could potentially happen, and you're aware of all of the potential dangers. Don't be again, I'm not going to mention a derogatory term because I don't want to get shadow banned by YouTube, but don't be one of these